Today I'm here with Eloise Dufka. You might recognize her from her Get Ready With Me's and her skincare videos on TikTok. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Wait, I feel like I've been watching your videos and I'm so excited and honored to like have the opportunity to have
Oh,
tea and like chit
I
chat.
love it. I love it. So first things first, do you consider yourself an influencer?
No.
Mm,
I think that I'm a content creator. Like that's when I introduce myself or like when people are like, what do you do? I consider myself a content creator
mm-hmm.
because realistically, like who am I influencing? Like when I make my videos, it's not to influence someone per se.
Right,
It's just having fun, making content that I like.
right.
And if it happens to influence someone in a positive way, then like that's a great added benefit, but that's not the intention behind it.
That's not how you label yourself.
Yeah.
I get that. And I feel like in, recent times, the term influencer has kind of taken on like this negative connotation. Would
Oh
you
my God,
agree with that?
1,000%.
Yeah,
And I talk with my other friends who are content creators and we try to figure out where it came from or why
right.
there is such a negative stigma around it. And I feel like it's a new industry and a new job. Like a lot of people just don't understand it
Mm-hmm.
and the lifestyle and things like that. So I think a huge part of it is just like not that much information about it. And like
Mm-hmm.
in 10, 15 years, when it's more normalized and like it's just the norm,
Yeah.
then hopefully it'll
Then
have like
it'll,
more of a positive kind
yeah.
of
And
note.
more of like a regular connotation.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's a little weird, like when you introduce yourself to someone and it's like, this is what I do for a
Hi,
living.
I'm an influencer. Like,
Yeah. It's
no.
like,
Like,
who are you influencing?
exactly.
Because
That's
I've
the
never heard of
thing.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I
You
feel
know?
like, especially, I mean, I make TikToks,
Mm-hmm.
the range of just people that are on the platform where, like, in someone's FYP, like, you could be popping up all the time. And for someone else, like,
Yes.
they never see you or have never heard of you.
Yes.
So to be like, oh, I'm an influencer, like, just kind of sounds
Mm-hmm.
not conceited, but just,
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Just a little bit out of touch. I
Yeah,
could
like,
see
not
that.
exactly as, like, humble and,
Right, right.
like, maybe if you're at the point where you have, like, millions of followers and genuinely you are someone who, like,
Yes.
not a household name, but like a lot of
Yeah.
people know you, then like maybe.
That's when the term influencer can
Yeah,
come in.
exactly. And I think about like people who I know call themselves influencers have been in this industry for like 5, 6,
Mm,
7, 10 years.
mm.
And it's like, as someone who just started, I don't think I'm there yet, or
Yeah.
like I haven't deserved that
Right,
like
right, right.
title.
I get that. I love that. It's so crazy to me that you just started and you're already like, what do you have, like
We
300,000
just hit
followers?
350.
350,000
Yeah.
followers on TikTok. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I have
Like,
every Monday I have my meetings with my manager and
yeah.
like in I want to say middle of August will be like my official 1 year of working with her, which is when I started saying I was like doing it full time because
1 year.
before it was like very sporadically, like nothing
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So no, it is insane to be like
Yeah.
350,000 people
Uh,
follow me and like watch my videos on
yeah.
occasion. Like that's crazy.
That is crazy. So how did you get into it? How did you start content creation, or when did you sit down and say like this is really what I want to do full time?
Yeah, so I started in January, like I made a green goddess salad, like that's what was like
Mm,
the rage back then.
yeah, I
And my friend
remember.
and I were just like joking around and like made it. The video's still up. You can like scroll all the way
Yeah.
down and find it. She accidentally put a filter on it. There's like, oh, we were watching a movie, so like the movie clip sounds are in the
Yeah.
back. It's the worst video I've ever seen. And I posted it thinking nothing of it. Woke up the next morning and I was like, why did 40, 50,000 people watch that? I was like, that is so
Mm-hmm.
random. And I'd had one video that was a nail video, like that blew up and went
Yeah.
viral, but like that was a one-off and I never really thought anything of it.
Yes.
And then I was there during Rush, if, like you're familiar with like
Oh yeah,
sorority,
yeah.
and I was on exec, but as a senior, you don't really have to do that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just made it Get Ready With Me, and like throughout that entire time, I did a couple like vlogs, and each one was
Mm-hmm.
like 30,000, 40,000. Like they were continuously
Yeah.
getting more and more views.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. Like someone thinks I'm entertaining, but I never thought it would like
Yeah.
actualize into a career. Like I thought it
Yes.
was just like, I'm just gonna have fun. Like everyone's having fun on TikTok. Like let's stay playful, like things like that. And then a couple weeks later, I got a brand that was like, hey, we'd love to send you like our ankle weights. And I was like, you want to send me ankle weights for what? Like
Yeah.
just because I like walk around the park a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And then a couple weeks after that, someone was like, we'll pay you, I think it was like $200 for like 4 videos, just like feature. It was actually Bloom Nutrition. Like,
Yeah. The green, like,
yeah, they were like, we'll
okay.
pay you $200 to like put it in 4 random videos. And
Yeah.
I was like, so someone wants to pay me? Like, but still, I like, it was such a weird concept.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks later, I had my first video go like viral. And I was like, wow. And I went from 15,000 followers to 30 basically overnight. And then like, yeah, again, like throughout my senior year, like would post every now and then. I went to Europe
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, this is when I'm going to blow up. This is when
Yes.
like all my Europe content is going to go like crazy.
Yeah.
Every single one flopped. Like not a single one got over like maybe
TikTok is
like,
like that.
yeah.
It's like it can sense when you're like getting to,
Like when you're like putting too much effort
I don't
into it
know,
or like,
yeah.
yeah. So I was like, okay, so the universe is telling me
Yeah.
this is not what I should be doing. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I get home from my Europe vacation and my mom was like, oh, like how was TikTok? Have you been having fun with it? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, but I just don't think it's like for me. And I think I maybe had like 50,000 followers at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So like still a good number, but nothing that you can actually monetize off of and like
Right.
make a true living. And then she was like, oh, you should really try to find a manager. And I was like, Mom, nobody that has like my like amount of followers
Uh-huh.
has a manager. Literally the next morning I woke up from with a DM from my current manager who was like, hey, have you ever thought about taking social media
No.
seriously? No, like it was the weirdest and like the simulation was glitching and it
No,
continues to glitch.
that was fate.
Yeah.
Like that was
And
meant to happen.
we got on a call and I was like, oh, like I hadn't had anybody reach out to me at that
Mm-hmm.
point. We like talked 30 minutes and I was like, I'll sign the papers now. She was like, no, 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 take like a day or two. And I was
Yeah.
like, nope, just send them to me. Like I like
I'm
she
doing
was
it.
the most sincere, honest, and she
Yeah.
also was a content creator, so I just felt so comfortable.
Oh
But I'm
yeah.
like big on vibes and the fact that we just meshed so well. I was like, I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was funny, right after I signed with her, I had 3 people that were like, hey, we'd love to manage you. And I was like, what is the
What?
like it's so crazy.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. So this wasn't always your plan, right? So
No.
what were your career goals before you got into this?
So, I mean, I think I'll go way back.
Mhm.
I thought I was going to be a doctor. Like, I think a
Okay.
lot of people enter college and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be pre-med.
Yeah.
And like up until this point, I had done like a pre-med internship.
Mhm.
Like, I was very much on the wave of I want to be a doctor.
Yes.
Took my first chem class and I said, nope, this is
Yeah.
just not for me. And business was always on the back end because I was like, I think a lot of the skills that you learn in business school are very transferable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And I knew I wanted to start something like be my own boss, like
Mhm.
things like that. So I went into the business school. I love skincare and beauty, obviously.
Yes.
So I had an internship my junior year summer with Estee Lauder.
Mm-hmm.
Worked with their travel retail team on the marketing sector, and I was like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
But working a 9 to 5, just like
It doesn't sound appealing.
yeah, and it was also during COVID, so I was doing it all online. And
Mhm.
had it been in person, maybe I would have had like a different feeling about it. But I think a lot of people, it's like sitting at a desk from 9 to 5, and then it's like your entire day's gone
Mhm.
answering. I mean, Estee Lauder is a huge conglomerate company, like the
Right.
second largest beauty conglomerate in the world.
Uh-huh.
And Estee Lauder specifically has so many people that you have to go through everything and like doesn't really allow you to have creativity in your like field per se. So I was like, okay, like maybe like a startup would allow more.
Yeah.
But when I graduated, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do or where, but like I'm gonna enjoy the summer
Yeah,
first
yeah.
and then figure out my life afterwards.
That was a really good step on your part.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you were about to enter a very limiting career and you're clearly a very creative person and you
Mhm.
needed like an outlet. So I
Yeah.
feel like that came at like the perfect time for you.
No, the universe was like really on my side.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, I know a lot of people who like want to take content creation seriously, but
Yes.
when you work a 9 to 5, by the time you're done,
You don't have
don't
time.
have the time. You're tired. You don't want to have to sit there and edit.
Yeah.
And it's also like for a lot of people, like lighting is a huge thing. So if you like all that time during the
Mhm.
day that you're sitting at a desk working is like optimal lighting for like
Exactly.
a content creator. And also if you want to go shoot content like outdoors, you can't do that on your lunch break.
Yeah.
Like it really is constricting and just like you doesn't really
It's
allow.
hard to get out of that.
Yeah, and then
right.
the weekends you also don't want to be sitting there making content. You want to
Exactly.
enjoy your weekend because it's like your one free time.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. So do you work outside of content creation or is this the only thing that you do?
pretty much I for a second worked for a tequila company and I was
Mhm.
sort of like helping them with their social media, but
Mhm.
I don't have the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Like
just
you're
like,
actually very busy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I tell everyone, I was like, if
Yeah.
you want to be put in the schedule, my calendar is like my holy grail.
Yeah.
Like everything is marked in there.
Yeah.
It's like a 2 week, you got to let me know 2 weeks in
Yeah,
advance
yeah.
because it's just insane. And
Yeah.
especially New York as well versus LA, there are events every single day
Mhm.
and like so many opportunities to go connect with other people. But then also
Exactly.
like you want to designate a certain day or two just for yourself and like
Yes.
just with your friends who like may not be content creators, like and trying to find the
Absolutely.
balance between all of that.
Absolutely.
It really takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand quite how content creation or influencing or, how it works or the
Yeah.
process behind how you actually make money
Mm-hmm.
off of it, how you live off of
Yeah.
social media work.
Yeah.
So, like, if you feel comfortable, could you kind of explain how that process works and how you were able to start monetizing your content to a
Mhm.
point where, like, you don't have to do anything else?
Well, I feel there's a lot that goes into it in terms of like your engagement, your like, I didn't realize like your ratio, like male to female being a girl is like, you obviously want a higher female engagement or ratio because like women will buy your products. So like to a brand, that's what's more compelling versus like you may have a lot of men follow you, but like they're not, at the end of the day, they're not going to buy the products that like you're advertising or like promoting.
So they're looking at your analytics before they like.
Well, once a brand will like reach out to you, ask you like, this is what the deliverables are that like we're looking at, this is what we like think for a campaign that you'd be good at, like what are your rates, and then they'll ask for the analytics as well. So a lot of that, I mean, I've just noticed from my manager and the emails that they send, but beforehand, like when I was doing it on my own, I didn't know anything about analytics, and like I saw things about media kits, but like didn't really know how to do that, how to find the right analytics and all of that. So a huge part that when negotiating your rate does go into your engagement, you're like the analytics behind your content. But I mean, everyone's so different. I mean, brands just started reaching out, be like, I would do get ready with me like story times, and like I would show so many products in my brand, in my things too, and like brands that I've always loved, like Charlotte Tilbury, like I've used YSL forever, like things like that. So then like naturally over time, they were like, oh, like you're already using it, so why not just like put a little money behind it and like promote a new product or whatever it is. And it's also like there's whitelisting, blacklisting, like there's so much to it. That, and I mean, you also have to keep into consideration that like your traditional marketing forms like don't really like billboards, like ads, like on TV, like that's not really where we're going. It's going on TikTok where people like have these people that they trust, they that like they're engaged with, they're like involved in.
So it's becoming a much more like lucrative career.
1,000%.
Because this is like their main form of marketing nowadays. You would say,
and it saves them like. You don't realize just how much money brands have, but then also you have to realize they save so much money through, like, I mean, traditional ad, marketing. Instead of a billboard and ad that like maybe the target audience that you're trying to like is not going to look up at a billboard, or they're just not going to be watching TV at that certain time or whatever it is. So no, it is definitely the most lucrative form, I feel like. But it's also interesting looking at micro influencers. I mean, I'm still within the micro influencer sphere because it's pretty large. It's like 50,000 all the way up to like 500,000.
Oh, really?
But I mean, people trust micro influencers. Like when Kim Kardashian posts something, I'm not like, she definitely uses that product because you're doing it for the bag, you're doing it for your check. But when you're at a micro influencer, like you're still hustling, trying to like. You want your followers to trust you. You want them to believe you. You want to create that like really engaged and like good community that like you can't be promoting a product that you genuinely like don't use or like don't like. Because you also see it in the content. And like what I've realized now, and I'm way more selective now with my manager, like we turn down so many things. I was like, I don't use it. So if I use like a random brand, my followers would be like, what are you doing? But also in the way that we negotiate the ads that I do, I want it to be on my terms. I want it to be like more of a get ready with me story time where there's nothing worse than when you watch something and you're like, I know that's an ad. Like it's just so much more organic and fun when it's like weaved into a story or weaved into a thing. And I think that takes time to develop and figure out how to do that properly. And I still am, but I much rather enjoy content that's like that. And when I do ads like that.
For sure. And it also helps you when you're making an ad or making a video about something that you actually genuinely like. You don't have to fake anything. It's very authentic and it comes off on the other side of the camera.
For sure.
So I definitely
think it's amazing, like building these relationships with brands where it's like I just finished one with Hourglass and I've worked with them before, but I got to work on a product that hadn't even launched yet, and like being able to like test it out and try, and like all of that is like, oh, a brand trusts me enough to like give me a product that hasn't even hit the market yet because they think that I would do a good job with it and that they think that like my followers would enjoy it. And that's like a really rewarding and great feeling.
Absolutely.
So it's
yeah, I love that. So okay, so do you model too? Because I've seen you doing like shoots for brands as well, like that don't have to do with social media.
Yeah. So back in the day, I don't consider myself a model. Like that's not the term that I use. Am I signed to an agency? Yes. Do I do it on the occasion? Yes. But so yeah, I dibble and I dab in the modeling industry.
I love that. You look like a model. Like I wouldn't doubt it, you know. But it's like I
with
wanted
my
to
like
know,
off-duty model look.
Literally. I wanted to know if you feel like your role as a content creator kind of helps you in the modeling world, or does it hurt you?
I think it really helps. I mean, a lot of it when I've talked to my other friends who are like solely models and they're like, their agencies are trying to push them to get into content because a huge thing is like your rate is based on your likeness and like the usage of like oh, if I were to look at something, someone would be like, oh, there's a higher chance that they'd recognize my face because they're on TikTok versus like someone who may not like do social media at all.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that the rates for modeling rates are so much lower than in social media.
Isn't it crazy?
That it's like, okay, I could sit at a shoot for 8 hours and do that, but I could also like not do that if I don't want to. And I think a huge part of like, I mean, now the industry is a lot more body positive and like body inclusive, but like I'm not a 5'11", 22-inch, like 23-inch, like girl, that's not me. But I mean, like we're moving towards a more inclusive environment. But New York also like, that's not the New York market. So I also found like when I first got signed, I was like 18 and like trying to find like your space within a modeling world, especially in New York where everyone's a model, like everyone's fighting for the same jobs. It was just a lot harder.
Yeah.
But
yeah, New York is definitely not there yet in terms of diversity. I feel like people try to say, you know, that we're moving towards that, but in reality, it's really not.
Yeah, I think
we
all
like know that.
We're at a snail's pace.
Yeah,
and it's going, but I think it's also like New York is high fashion, and I don't think the high fashion industry is really going to change because I mean, like these clothes need to hang a certain way, and like it's just some things I just don't really foresee are going to change that much, which is why we're manifesting it because the universe and I are really in tandem right now. I want to get signed in LA because a huge part of LA is beauty, which is what I do on TikTok, but that's like where e-com, that's all in LA. It's not in New York.
That's so true. That's very true.
Yeah.
There's very different markets. And I have been noticing that a lot of like beauty companies, like I saw like Milk Makeup, for example, they just had a whole campaign full of influencers, full of content creators.
Yeah.
So it's like the two worlds, like the modeling world and
they really mesh.
They're really starting to intertwine a lot. Like I see that.
And at least like when I started modeling, like a huge push for me was like I didn't like being in front of a camera and I wanted to be more confident in a camera. I mean, obviously when I take videos, like front camera, like feel so much like I'm looking at myself, it's great. But like back cameras give me a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
And I felt like the way I deal with things is like, oh, I throw myself in just to like go head first and like I feel like it just like helps me a lot. So I was like with modeling, let me just go head first. Like let me just do something that scares me. And like it's going to benefit me in like the long run.
Yeah.
So that's why like I did it. But I do think that it's really helped when it comes to being in front of a camera.
Yeah. No, definitely taking risks is always good. I feel like high risk, high reward. Like you have to try new things.
I always say like my motto is like do one thing a day that scares you. And like it really, and like say yes. I mean, obviously say yes within reason. But those two together have opened up so many doors that I never thought would have like, I'd have the opportunity to do.
100%. Another thing I really like about your platform is how open you are about talking about your dating experiences and your relationship experiences. So does that come naturally to you, or is that more something, is that like a strategic thing? Because I know a lot of content creators are moving towards this kind of vibe where they treat their followers like they're close friends almost.
Yeah.
So it's like sharing your life and like really building this sense of community. So yeah, does it come naturally to you, or is it more for that reason?
I mean, I thought like my first dating video, like I thought was a joke. Like I did not think anyone was going to be interested in like a date that I went on. And like girls really like gravitated towards it and like loved it. And I think a huge thing was I've been single, like I've been more single than I have been in relationships. And I would consider myself a very picky person, like very high standards. And I think like I went on this date with a 31-year-old and he like sent me roses afterwards. And it was like so many girls in the comments were like, oh, but I'm still upset over a guy who like made me split a bill and things like that. And I was like, you should not like know. So I feel like, not that I'm probably like the same age as a lot of them, but like that big sister role of like, you deserve more. Like, remember at the end of the day, you were the prize. It is a privilege to like all these different things that I think girls forget because society doesn't always like push for that of like having standards, saying no, like doing what you want to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of settling.
Yeah, and like I was like, I will never settle. Like that's just not me. So I think also in part like these videos also help other people not settle.
For sure. And I love that it's more meaningful to you making these videos that way than just doing it as like a strategy to like, you know, get more followers. Like I like what you do it for. You know?
I mean, like, because when I started the videos that, like, got me that recognition were, like, my hair videos. Things like that. So these dating ones are, like, oh, like, little snippets of, like, what I'm doing. But, like, I don't go on that many dates. Like, I mean, recently I have. But, like, normally I don't. So I was like, I'll just sprinkle those in there, like, when they come. But
no, they're great.
They're not, like, the basis.
I really do. I love watching them because it feels like a little sneak peek into, like, what it's like to date in New York City, too.
And I think it's also just, like, everyone's experience with dating is so different. And I think, like, I've had so many friends that have terrible dating experiences, but I was like, dating can be fun. It's
Yeah.
empowering being like, just, again, not settling, like having your standards and being like, this is me, this is like what I do, and like just taking ownership of like having fun and being young and like all of that.
Yes, and being able to just, I mean, not rotate, but it's like, if you don't like what I want, then like move along.
That's
like,
okay, yeah. And like that's
fun.
also the thing too, is like at the end of the day, like we may not mesh, like that's but that's okay.
Yeah, it was an experience.
It was. And I feel like I had a friend who was like, people come into your life for certain reasons, and even if it's one date, I'm gonna walk away like learning something
you learn
new.
something from it. Yeah,
and I feel like all of that, like, or even if like it isn't something romantic, that could be a great friend. That could be a great connect in some sort of industry or like whatever it is. But really just taking the opportunity to like meet new people. And like New York, I mean, it's a huge city. It's also so small because you will somehow run into the person that you don't want to run into or whatever it is. But like there's a huge wealth of knowledge and people, and like take advantage of it.
Yes, I think it's so important also because I feel like in our generation, like dating as a form of like, I feel like dating is just lost, has been lost.
It's like a Netflix and chill. So like
it's Netflix and chill, or it's like talking, or it's never like, you know, like I'm dating, I'm going on dates. Like that's not really. I was
like
talking
to my friend about like trying to figure out the stages of like, okay, you meet, because back in the day it was like, oh, I'm casually dating, but casually dating meant like that talking stage where you're getting to know a ton of people, and then you got into like being exclusive and then like dating, but it was like trying to figure out what comes first and then like how that varies. But no, like I would say I'm a hopeless romantic. I love a good date. I love a good man putting in effort, like opening doors, chivalry, like all of that.
Yeah.
So in these dates, I'm like, it's still alive. Like it may be hard to find, but like don't
they're
lose
there.
hope. Yeah, they're there. You just gotta really like weed through a lot of them.
And that's part of not settling either, because it's like that's what you want and that's what you're gonna look for. And if it's not there, then it's just not that time. But like I love the way that you push for that. It's really good. And another thing I love about your content is your little daily routines.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I watch your videos and I see that you adhere to this super strict like morning routine. So can you tell us a little bit about that and like what you do in the morning?
So I'm a big morning person, and it's like I would say the first 6 months of the year were like really my glow up. Like first time really living alone, like having my own schedule, planning my own schedule, and like all of that. But I love to just wake up early because I feel like, again, like that's my time to edit. That's my time to like journal. That's my time to just like have a second before the rest of the world wakes up and just like do my own thing. So it's get up. I'm working on not checking my phone first thing in the morning, but I'm addicted to my email. I check it 1,000 times a day. It's just like
when you have things coming in.
It's the biggest rush when I like text my manager. I'm like, did you see what just came in? Like it's just like a rush of excitement. So it's wake up, try not to check my phone, but I probably do. Go straight into making my hot lemon water, and while that's making, that's when I go into like my journal and like planning for the day. I'll like I do my 5-minute journal, because I mean a huge thing I think why I've had not success, but why the universe and I have been so in tandem is like I wake up grateful for everything.
Gratitude.
Yeah, and I think that like when you live your life with gratitude being at the forefront of your mind, everything changes. Because like it could be like a terrible day, it could be disgusting outside, but like there are so many little things, and it doesn't have to be anything major, but like I am so grateful for like the apartment that I've been able to like afford for myself, the life that I'm grateful that like, I have functioning legs that I can go for a hot girl walk and like do little things like that. And like so it just I'm a big like rooting in like the small things, not the big things, because the small victories like make up for the big things.
100%.
And like the big things don't come as often as like the small things do. So after the journal, we go straight into like planning for the day, the calendar, the content I want to have done. And I also like I write everything down. The amount of notes that I have.
Are you a Virgo?
No, I'm an Aries.
Oh,
it was so funny. After the date, when I said like my calendar was my love language, people were like, "Are you a Virgo?" And I was like, "No,
I'm a Virgo." And you remind me so much of myself. I write everything down.
But especially with content too, I've realized like ideas have a shelf life. And like I'll wake up. I've like woken up like I've been drifting off to sleep and had this idea for a video I want to make, and like pulled out my phone and like written it down on my notes. And I'm like, okay. Except sometimes I like don't write enough detail that I wake up the next morning and I'm like, what was I talking about? But still like having those ideas, like that's the time when I'm like really feel like I'm most creative when I haven't had any like not daily dramas, but like daily like problems or anything.
Yeah, or anything just like infiltrating your mind.
Yeah, just like blocking the creative flow. So I like write everything down, get everything planned. I live by just like, I think when you're so busy, I thrive by like sectioning off by hours. Like I'm going to put in my calendar my hot girl walk. I'm going to put in my workout. I'm going to put in my hour of editing.
Too.
Because that way, like, you don't go overtime and you can really like get everything done. And also you maximize it. I have 45 minutes.
Yes.
I'm going to make sure that I maximize all of that 40 minutes. And like, I'm the most productive, effective, like just self.
Yeah.
So yeah, then after that, there's probably a morning workout because I just like love moving my body in the morning. And then once I come back, then that's like, okay, once I'm all done with that, then it's like, okay, shower, get into the content, get into like the work, get into the meetings, get into all of that when like the rest of the world is awake. And I've realized working in beauty, a lot of it is on the West Coast. So like they're not going to be up for a couple hours. By the time it's afternoon, that's when I'm getting all the emails from the West Coast and getting edits back and like all of that. Yeah, and I'm like fully prepared, zenned out, like in work mode.
Yeah, definitely. But do you really do this every day?
I mean, no. I try to. Obviously, like there's a lot of days that I start off so great in the morning, and then I'll just like crash like one or two. Yeah. But I try as best as I can to hit as many of those as I can. I mean, I'm imperfect. Like we all have like, of course. So but trying. And like Fridays are my days to like wake up a little bit later, sleep in a little bit more. The weekends are obviously like days where I kind of like fall off, but naturally I like having a routine. It like helps me focus, and especially again back to content where like you have 1,000 different things going on when like, and with modeling too, like, oh, I have to go to a casting, but I also have this too, I have that. It's nice to have like one bit of consistency a day that I know that like is going to be the same every day. Yes,
with such an unpredictable schedule, like I feel like you're in control of at least that.
And like I'm a big, not like I've gotten a lot better with my control freakness, but my morning is my one thing that I can control that I like having control of.
Understandable. Definitely. So I want to wrap up this interview by asking you one question.
Yes.
And that question is, what advice would you give to anybody who wants to kind of change their life in the way that you did through content creation, but they're just not sure where to start or if they're even good enough, you know, to do it?
I feel like the biggest thing is you just have to start. Like you just have to post that video.
Yeah.
Like you just have to believe in yourself enough and like fake it till you make it if you have to. But, like, you have to do it or at least try or else the answer is always going to be no or, like, it's always going to be the unknown. And, like, that was the thing. I posted, that green goddess salad, not thinking anything of it, but I just did it.
Just post it.
Yeah. And, like, after that comes the consistency and the rest of it. But, like, in order to start the journey, you have to start. You have to just do it.
Yeah. And it sounds so simple, but it's so true.
No, and that's the thing, too. It's so simple at the end of the day with everything. Like, if you want to learn a new language.
Yeah.
All that's stopping,
start reading.
Just have to do it.
Yeah.
So, like, at the end of the day, with anything, just do it. Like, believe in yourself. And that's why I say, like, say yes and just do one thing a day that scares you. Because once I started posting more consistently, like, Instagram, I used to be terrified of Instagram. Yeah. And, like, my manager was like, nobody cares or whatever.
People are.
Yeah, but I was like, I just need to post the picture. I just need to do it. And, like, that mindset of do one thing a day that scares you. Just do one thing that you are scared to do. And, like, you will reap the benefits. I promise you.
I love that. Because you can plan and plan and plan. But, like, that's not, no one sees that.
Yeah, and, like, no one's going to force you to do it. And you also have to, like, have that, not will, but, like, you have to want it for yourself. Because no one can want it for you. Like, so many of my friends, like, oh, joke around about content creation. And I was like, I'm here if you need it. But, like, I can't force you to click that post button. I can't force you to make the video. You have to want it for yourself. And you have to do it. And, like, I'll be there to support you at the end of the day. Yeah. But, like, you have to do it. So, yeah, if anyone wants to start content creation, just post the video.
Just post. I love it. You heard it here. Just post the video. I love it. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. We didn't even drink our tea.
I know.
Thank you so much. You gave some really good advice and good insight. So, thank you so much, Eloise.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you in the next episode.